Good evening, everybody. It's 6:31. Today is Tuesday, September 20th, 2022, and this is our regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board, and we're going to say the pledge. If you'll join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Randy.
Okay, trustee Winslow is absent and excused. Trustee LaRue.
Here.
Trustee Everson.
Here.
Trustee Marks.
Present.
Treasurer Johnson.
Here.
Secretary is here and Supervisor Durant.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Kangas, our attorney Roger Zappa, Lenny Bodinas, our Superintendent of Public Works is on Zoom, and Jason McCarthy, our Planning Zoning Administrator, is on Zoom.
All right, thank you. Does anybody wish to address the board before we start with our meeting? No? Okay. All right, so we need approval of the consent agenda, which tonight includes approval of regular meeting minutes of September 6th of 22. Bills payable in the amount of $179,367.37. No other reports. Correspondence not requiring board action is the MSU close-up survey results, kind of interesting. I got from the Marquette County Road Commission, the last meeting I went to, they had their contractor costs and staff information and phone numbers, so I included that for you guys. 2021 test results of West Nile virus in the rough grouse. I know we have lots of hunters in the county and in the township and in the UP, and I just wanted to point this out to everybody, the West Nile virus results. And then the MDOT Ishpeming TSC 2023 construction map. The manager thought this might be a good thing to add so you can kind of see what they're planning for next year.
Move to have the consent agenda approved as presented.
Or
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And unless there are no changes, we just need approval of the remainder of the agenda.
Move the approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'm not aware of any conflicts of interest with this agenda. So, fire department, do we have the fire department? Do you have anything?
just a written report that Dan had submitted, so.
Nothing extra, John, from Dan on the fire department? Pete?
We have an open house coming up.
Yep, Monday from
You gonna bring it up?
5 to 8. Yep, open house at the fire department. Everybody's welcome. Right across the street. I was gonna ask the chief about, there was a melatonin overdose. So just be careful. This is not gummies. If you buy the gummies, hide them on the kids, because they're dangerous. You can't just take as many as you want. 2 is even a lot. Planning report, MNRTF acquisition grant application presentation update from our planning and zoning administrator, Mr. McCarthy.
Can you hear us, Jace? I think he thinks he's talking, but I don't know if I can hear him here. Let's see here. Speakers. Making sure we got the right. Okay, I think you're good now, Jace. Try it now.
Okay, good evening.
Sounds good.
On August 17th, I was invited down to Alpena, where I guess there's over 200 applications this year for both development and acquisition grants. Our acquisition project was one of 12 or so that were invited to Alpena to present in front of the full MNRTF board. And I always view that as a positive thing, because they want to know more information about our project, and it allows us to put a face to a project, and have them ask more questions. It was a short presentation, I'm not gonna lie, but I think it was worthwhile. And I presented for about 10 minutes and gave them, the details of our proposed project and what we were hoping to accomplish. And the only question that came up at the end from one of the board members was the asking price for the 16 acres, but I assured them that comps in the area for commercial property of that likeness was indeed in that ballpark. So I think they looked at the project favorably. And just a couple of quick updates. There will be a meeting on December 14th of this year, and that will be the full board, and they'll be recommending their projects at that time. So I will hope to know by December 14th after 3 p.m. sometime whether or not we have been recommended for funding, and if we are, then we would just have to not worry, but we would have to make sure that the property appraises at the seller's requested price, which is approximately $100,000 per acre. And if that's all good to go, then we would close sometime in May. That's best case scenario. I guess worst case scenario, we don't get the grant, and we'd have to go back to the drawing board for a more project. But by all accounts, our grant coordinator thinks we have a good project. I think we have a good project, and it seems that the board, the MNRTF board, Michigan Natural Resource Trust Fund board, thought it was a good project as well. But of course, this is stiff competition, and there was a change recently in the law as far as how they fund development projects versus acquisition projects. It used to be 50-50, but now they're funding development projects at a little higher percentage than they are acquisition. However, there are less applications this year than there have been in previous years. So hopefully that all works in our favor, and I'd be happy to answer any questions and keep you apprised of how that process works moving forward.
So Jace, that is the 16 acres of the Ed Scott property, right, that you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, just for the public who may not know the project we were trying to get the grant for. And I think you said it was estimated to be 1.6 million for the 16 acres, so that's pretty hefty. And hopefully, the intent is that the township won't pay anything. So it's not like we have to come up with any cash, or even in kind or anything, for right now anyway, as it stands. All right, questions for
That's
James?
correct, yes. Hopefully, the seller's contribution of land value will cover the 30% match that we have put together with them.
Any questions for Jason?
You can keep them around for that one.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask if were you gonna stay, Jason, for that first agenda item? Because the attorney has some questions.
I am, yes.
Okay, okay. Let's keep going then, or do we wanna just stop and ask him now? Okay, sounds good. All right, hang on, Jace, then. Public Works Report. Switch to Lenny.
Hello, everyone. Really quickly here, a few items. One on the solid waste. We actually completed our grant for the recycling bin grant. So we made our final report and sent that in. Looking at the metrics from the program, it was a success. I did add that into the board packet. Prior to the cars being delivered, we did about 239.8 tons of recyclable items from May 2020 to May 2021, which was about 336 pounds per household for that year on average. Postcard delivery, we increased that to 392.2 tons with an average of 448 pounds per household between May of 21 and May of 22. So the program is a success. We're constantly trying to look at ways to try to make it better and more efficient. One of the biggest ways that we try to get out there is try to give residents to put the carts out when they're more than half full. So try to fill up those carts if it has to, you know, if you could hold on to the recyclables for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, however long in case they full, we really encourage that. And we've been getting high quality recyclable materials, so very few, at least when I talk to the hauler, very few contaminants in there, so that's good. On wastewater, we had a bid opening yesterday for the Center Street lift station generator. There was a bidder, low bidder. We're still kind of waiting on the formal award or recommendation from our engineer for that. Right now, it came in at just under $90,000. So the original budget was $100,000. We do have $25,000 grant in addition to that. So those numbers came in really good. At this time, we don't know exactly when the project's going to happen. A lot of that has to do with material lead time, and hopefully they're making generators out there and we don't have to wait a year or 2. And we're, of course, we're doing routine grinder replacements and repairs. That's an ongoing period. In the water side, Rob and Chad, they had a blow-up chlorine system called the well field. They were able to get that repaired. There was a leaky, I think it was leaky fitting that they were able to repair. They're kind of looking at everything, and we do have one chlorine pump out there, but we do not have a spare. So we figured we better get a spare on the shelf just because of the lead times and everything, and it turned out to be kind of a good thing. When they called their distributor, they had one pump left on the shelf in their warehouse in Las Vegas. They have multiple warehouses, and God only knows how long it would take to get a new pump. So we do have that coming, so we will have a pump on, at least on the shelf. So we, you know, because things are just getting harder and harder to get. We have been continuing to perform our mandated lead service line survey, so they're still getting about 2 to 3 done per day. I know some of you board members had some calls about air and water. We have determined that was from, we're probably going to do a valve replacement on Ontario and Norwood, so we had to kind of do some testing to see what valves work and how far we had to go back. I took a couple calls as well, so I think that's pretty much over, but there still might be occasion where somebody gets some air and water. So that's actually what's going on. We just kind of thought we could run water till it clears out, and we're going to hope to get that valve worked on or getting replaced here within the next year. The buildings and grounds, a lot of you might have seen, I see that Manager Kangas also has it on his report. We did get some crack sealing done in all our buildings. The parking lots. For Lions Field, we have ordered all our irrigation parts for the field, so we ordered them. We got them. We're going to actually install them ourselves. We found that it shouldn't be too bad for the crew that we have. We do have one member on staff who's pretty experienced putting that stuff in, so that will save us a significant amount of money. Andy is also busy doing solid works at the public works facility. So, kind of anticipating where natural gas prices are going to go this year, we're trying to make some energy efficiency improvements at our buildings. And we started carrying out these old windows, and we do have some pictures of those if anybody's interested to see. There's no insulation at all in the window patches, like some kind of barrier in there. But we were kind of wondering why these past 2 winters we pretty much made ice screws on the windowsills, and we kind of got our answers. We're starting to look into these. So we do have some efficient windows going in there. We're making sure everything's all insulated up with foam and stuff like that. That should be really good as far as our efficiency goes. And I don't know if I talked about it the last week or not. I should have put on this one though, is our roof project is complete there. So all the steel is up. Hopefully now, as we get a big snow, we should be good, and we shouldn't have to worry about any problems with the roof integrity. That's all I have.
Great. You answered 2 of my questions, Lenny, but how about glass drop-off? We kind of talked about that a little bit last week. What are we going to do for the winter? Because the regular, like, first Wednesday drop-off stops. So do we just hold our glass?
What we're trying to do right now is part of trying to do some cost-saving measures. We're only having it from April to October. And of course, we're limiting to 5 drop-offs per time for our 5 roll-offs and then 3 drop-offs for your residents. So far, it's actually been going really good. I think we've only actually hit our 5 total dumpsters here once or twice this year. So we really throttled back on what we're using there, and it's been helping out a lot. I believe, I think the glass, we'll keep the glass open there, because we do have one dumpster that we're paying for anyhow, so the glass recycling will be kept open. And, beyond that, we're, as far as now, as what we're doing now, we're gonna keep it shut throughout the winter, unless the board wants to do something.
Okay. So that back area will be left open and all winter long, and you can still drop your glass off?
Yes, at the transfer station, yes, correct.
Good, okay. Any questions for Lenny? Great, thank you, very thorough.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, next up is the assessor's report. We do have an insert here. I can page down with a quarterly department report. Talks about our July Board of Review, what we covered on that. They're gonna be doing some extra training. Let's see where we are. I think we're in year 3 of our AMAR. Yeah, for 25, okay. Year 3. And all of the paperwork that goes with that. Anything else, John, that you want to add that you know of?
Nothing specific. I wasn't able to talk to our assessor about the contents of the report,
Okay,
so it'll have to speak for itself.
I want to make sure. Okay, sounds good. Next up is our attorney report. Mr. Z?
Well, as I was putting this together, I was wondering how come it's so long this month, and perhaps part of it is it's, we've had 5 weeks in the month rather than the usual 4. But been a pretty busy month. Probably the biggest time consumer was preparation of the proposed 425 agreement with the city of Marquette on the potential Forestville Road development. And that's an agreement basically for collaboration between the city and the township that neither party has acted on at this point. We're just putting the terms together on what either side might be able to live with. And we initiated that document, and it has been transmitted to the city attorney, and I have not heard anything back yet, and that's probably because they haven't had a chance to go through it. It's a fairly comprehensive agreement. A number of DDA questions have come up, which is only marginally relevant to this board because the DDA has their own attorney, but coincidentally it's me. So there have been some issues in terms of potential funding and projects and whether or not they should or should not issue a development plan or whether they should call it something else. And I've been working on that in the past couple of weeks. The Lake Enchantment Road property issue is an ongoing issue that we had thought maybe we had a potential sort of novel solution that fell flat. So we are basically back to, at this point, we only had one bid, as I understand it, for an independent contractor to come in and clean that up. And my understanding is that's in the process of moving forward as we speak. There have been a number of small zoning issues and questions over the month, nothing terribly troubling. At least one FOIA inquiry that I gave a little bit of input on. I've been monitoring the developments on the Lionsfield use agreement that may or may not need some minor revisions in the coming year. Reviewed the UniFirst contract, which is the Public Works uniform agreement that they have that's been less than satisfactory over the years, and there were a couple more questions on that. There have also been a number of ongoing questions concerning an opinion I had given for the Planning Commission for a special use permit inquiry on a short-term rental application, and it involves some pretty unique issues on a shared well and a shared driveway. And as I indicated, there have been ongoing questions on what if this or what if that were to occur. We also had, since the last report, 2 tax tribunal matters come up. One of them being the Westwood Mall. I think between the county treasurer and the assessor, I'm cautiously optimistic that that was the result of an administrative error at the county level, and hoping that that's finally been corrected. We need to see an amended document on that, but that one may go away with little or no additional work. The other one is the AutoZone Tax Tribunal appeal, and that one has been answered and submitted on behalf of the township in Lansing. Also, we've gotten closer to getting a Lost Creek document out the door, but given all of the other things, especially the 425 agreement, which was a little bit more pressing, I hope to have something more in the way of progress the next time I'm talking to you on that. But that is moving forward, but is not complete at this point. That pretty much sums up what I could think of. I probably missed a couple of things. I also indicated that I would get back to you on my availability should the board move its meetings to Wednesday. I will not be available on Wednesday evenings. I have another commitment, and I did confirm that that will be, it's not until 7:30, but I will have another matter 7:30 of every Wednesday in the incoming year.
It's good to know. Okay. What?
Yeah, well done.
Yeah. Plus, your office was sick too. I mean, you got a lot done.
Yeah, we
even
had
though
a
we were-
COVID outbreak in the office too, so.
Yeah. Any questions then for Roger? Okay, excellent, thank you. Update on Downtown Development Authority. Take it away, John.
If I dare.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the DDA has developed a plan with priority projects that they intend to use to leverage limited millage revenues toward grant-funded projects. The first project they're looking at, we've already collected half of the revenue. It was a $500,000 for 2 years. 2022 will be the second year, and you'll actually be considering that millage a little bit later on today. But that first project would be connecting non-motorized facilities along Commerce Drive and Wright Street to the highway. So from Werner out to the highway on Commerce Drive, and on Wright Street, old Wright Street, the original alignment, from Venture to the highway. So it would further connect our non-motorized facilities from the residential areas to the commercial areas, which I think is a big deal. They have additional plans that will be presented to their constituents here in October. I forget what the date is off the top of my head. It's in my report, I think.
I think October 10th, is it, or 11th?
No, we moved it. 20th.
October 20th. So their October 11th quarterly meeting was rescheduled to the 25th as a result, so they can talk about feedback from the open houses. 3 open houses on the 20th. They'll be at 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and 7 o'clock, with the presentation prepared by our planning staff that kind of discusses all those priority projects. As our attorney said, you know, we started with a document that the DDA was calling its master plan, but the township can only have one master plan. So the terminology development plan came up, and it just so happens that that's tied to a different kind of plan that's very specific to TIF districts.
TIF districts and revenue bonds.
And revenue bonds, which neither are the intent of the DDA to pursue at this time. So that plan will be renamed renamed a second time to something other than master plan or development plan. It may be project priority plan, something along those lines, but it won't be referred to as a development plan moving forward. I think there's a lot of great emotion, a lot of great ambition and significant desire to see some improvement for especially the US 41 corridor. The beautification, which you may recall, we have the pilot project happening. We're probably going to be seeding it next week. That's that first third acre of median east of Commerce Drive along the highway. The ultimate plan, if this works out, is to do the entire corridor, median, and maybe even along the outsides of the roadway in certain areas where maintenance seems to be lacking by the adjoining property owners. And of course, they have no obligation to do it, but normally they do just to improve the appearance of their property. I think if this works out, it would actually be a good compromise as far as minimizing the amount of maintenance that these property owners would have to do in the public right-of-way. So we'll see what happens. Our grounds crew is going to be mowing it one last time later this week, and then the Conservation District is going to help us seed it next week. That is one of their priority projects, is to beautify the corridor, so we'll see how that goes. And I would defer to Supervisor Durant to add anything that maybe I missed.
Well, that was a pretty comprehensive report. So the open houses are for the public. It's typically business driven because it's in the DDA, but we have, you know, the whole township, anybody's invited to these open houses. We'll do 3 in one night, Thursday, October 20th. And we will have the plan, whatever it's called, we'll have a plan there people can look at, and our planning department does have a little PowerPoint type presentation that's got some information in it. I think we're gonna get some cookies and coffee, something like that, what I understand. So that's important. That's part of the whole information network we have to do and want to do. We'll have press releases, hopefully maybe the newspaper and the couple radios or radio and TV stations will be there to get the information. This is important. One of the other items farther down on the DDA's list is lighting in the corridor, and we've gone back and forth on that for probably 10 years on what we can and can't do and where it can be and how light it is and how dark it is and where it points. And so
Hearing 20 years on this end of the table.
20? Oh, thanks. Okay. Well, maybe we'll make it to 25, hopefully not.
Let's just be clear, though, that MDOT has no intention of allowing the township to light up the entire corridor for motorized traffic. They would be okay with lower level lighting for non-motorized safety purposes, but they don't want us to be installing lighting to light up the highway.
Everybody's got their headlights and they don't want any distractions either, and we can't have the poles in the middle of the corridor, which is why there are no rocks, or, well, there's some rocks, but trees or high bushes or anything like that. They
Nothing
don't
that's
want
a safety
anything,
hazard.
Yeah, that's gonna cause some issues.
So can we touch base real quick on the whole millage discussion as well? The DDA has the authority to levy up to 2 mills with the township board support. They have previously recommended a half mil for 2 years, so that was 2021 and 2022. We collected the first on last December's tax bill, and the second will be this December's tax bill. If you approve the second L4029 form in your packet, actually, they're both corrected in front of you. We'll get into that in a little bit, but we're hoping the DDA won't take action on recommending a millage until after we've gone through this open house process to share what their plans really are, so their constituents understand why they're recommending whatever millage it is they decide upon. And we'll have some financial information included in the presentation in October, once we get there, to show what the impact would be of various size properties within the DDA. Whether it's a big box or a medium-sized box or one of the smaller ones, especially here on the east end of the corridor and the older development areas.
Yeah, there's some small businesses there. It's not all big boxes. There's, you know, mom and pop type 1 and 2 people shops. So they would.
Yeah, and there's also some larger properties that are not owned by national corporations. So, you know, what are those impacts to those local people? It's not just a way to go after the big boxes to get more revenue. It would be an impact to the entire TDA district or development district, however it's determined.
That's kind of for anybody that's not seen the map, you know, if the township kind of goes up this way toward Powell Township and the DDA is kind of right in the middle, you can imagine it right around 41, Highway 41, with a couple little caveats around. So it's not necessarily the Trowbridge and Oak Hills type, it's just the business area for the most part. And we can, that map will be available too at the open house, so everybody can see where the line is.
Hopefully we'll be able to print that at a large enough scale for people to identify where their property is.
Any questions about that? Oh, Pete, go ahead.
Yes, John, on Commerce Drive, I was writing when you were talking. You're talking Venture all the way down to Wright Street in front of us?
No,
Why?
opposite direction.
Why?
That would be a question for the DDA. They're more focused currently on tying into the portion of non-motorized trail that was just built on the highway. That kind of, well, it ends on this end at Commerce Drive. It doesn't go any further east. So how do you connect to the rest of the network? You gotta go down Commerce to Werner. To your point, I think long-term that should be part of somebody's plan, whether it's the DDAs or the townships, whoever. I agree. In fact, ultimately, I would like to see a non-motorized facility go all the way out to the Dead River Basin.
It's just designed wrong out there. The Commerce was designed wrong, as far as I'm concerned, because I see people walking and driving their bikes on both sides, and it's just not enough room.
So
You need 3 feet on each side of that bike.
I hear you say it was designed wrong.
It
What
is.
was the scope of the project when it was
I
designed?
don't know.
There you go. We don't know if it was designed exactly per the
But they're gonna
scope
put a
or
road
not.
in, and they know what you have to put in there, you know. So that's another.
I try to be really careful when it comes to this stuff because whoever designed it could have designed it exactly according to the instructions they were given.
Yeah,
But if it doesn't meet the needs of what's currently happening, you have to
it
adapt.
does, yeah.
And if that means we build a non-motorized facility the rest of the way down Commerce Drive, I'm all for it. I see the people walking and riding their bikes up there every day. It would be a much safer option over just a paved shoulder, which we're actually fortunate to have there.
How far down the highway do you figure you can go down? US 41 towards Marquette?
Well, the ultimate goal of the DDA is to connect to the city of Marquette. There's a lot of challenges along the highway in that there's very little space to put a non-motorized facility. In fact, they've got that maintenance strip right behind the curb. That might be the most that'll actually fit in some of those areas because right behind it is the parking lot. In fact, a lot of the private parking is in the public right-of-way because it's such a wide right-of-way.
And for the maintenance and that's gonna be at whose expense?
Whoever builds it. So if the township builds it, the township owns it and maintains it. Correct.
Don't get too carried away.
I have the same concern with any lighting along the corridor.
Right.
We're already paying the lighting bill for the 2 roundabouts, right? If you add lighting all the way down to the city on one side, just for non-motorized facilities, somebody's gotta pay that power bill too. So I agree.
We don't have the lighting to take care of our ordinance as it is for the township before we start adding on a bunch of other lighting, so.
Well, if the DDA can generate the revenue to do it, that's one thing. Can the township then afford to pay the power bill in perpetuity? That's a separate issue. So when these projects come forward, those are the discussions you will have to have as a board.
Boy, every streetlight, you're talking $15 to $18. I forget what it is now, but it was $15 or $18 a light.
Yeah, I couldn't quote that
Whatever,
without
yeah.
talking to VLP.
Right. But I just use caution, see what we can afford and do.
Yeah, I have to be a little bit careful that I don't over-advise the DDA on some of these things. It may be taken as attempting to cast a vote.
But anytime a DDA wants to add a millage, you know who's paying for it.
Taxpayers,
Hello.
I get it.
We got other things
That's
in the
why I'm
township
not
we have to-
recommending the township board pursue extending the rec millage anytime soon. I think we captured enough. Don't have all of the documentation yet, but it's close, to prove that the 2 years of a half mil will be enough to get us by for a total of 4 years.
Well, the reason I'm saying that is because I'd much rather not get too carried away, because I'd much rather see, if we're gonna spend money that's gonna bring housing into the township. We got 492 out there, we have water problems out there, you know, there's a lot of property out there that we could build houses out there. So, that's the only thing I was looking at.
Well, that's a separate pot of money, but sure.
It's out of the same pocket.
Well,
Sort of.
rates and taxes, right? They're two totally different pockets. Legally, they're two different pockets. You can't just make one the other or vice versa.
I know what you're saying.
The beans have to be counted separately.
Beans and one's peas.
And what was it, open house, I got,
October 20th, it's
Yeah.
a Thursday,
what's the first one?
3 o'clock,
3 o'clock
and then 5 o'clock
and 7?
and 7. So
And if you're not sure on your notes over there, it is in my report, in the packet.
it's in the community room. Any questions on that? Okay, good summation.
Thank you.
Yep. They've been meeting a lot, so that's a good compilation. Community linkage, anybody have anything you're hearing from the public? Phone calls, stopping at the store? I don't even have anything to share. Okay, policy discussion. Consider zoning map amendment featuring split lot zoning. That's item 8A in the packet. Roger, why don't you start with what you're thinking?
I haven't been involved in this discussion at all. I've reviewed nothing on it essentially. So my first question I have is, on what date was the proposed zoning ordinance amendment sent to the county?
It was sent, after the last board meeting,
The 6th was,
when it was discovered that there was a step miss there, yes.
Okay, and so have we passed 30 days yet?
2 weeks.
Because that's the statutory period, that's all I just didn't see any reference in the materials in the board packet, so that was my first question.
30 days from the date of the planning commission meeting, or 30 days?
30 days, they have 30 days to review it. So 30 days,
And that, was supposed to be included in the packet. They met last week and transmitted a letter to the clerk, to myself, to Lynn, and to our staff planner, unanimously approving.
okay, problem solved. I just wanted to make sure that we're crossing our Ts and dotting our Is, because it does need to comply with all the statutory procedures of amending the zoning ordinance. And then I have also not seen, but I am assuming that the planning commission minutes have all of the usual mandatory findings. There are 8 things that our zoning ordinance says that the planning commission must make findings of fact on. And I know sometimes those are transmitted in the board packet as well. And usually the planning commission is hyper diligent on that, so I am assuming it occurred, I just haven't seen it.
I missed part of that for some reason, but this packet that you currently have does not have the information that the last packet did, that had all of those findings in there. But yes, the planning commission deliberated diligently on the proposed land uses and unanimously approved each one.
Then, problem solved again, and my next question was essentially, was there a summary of the public comment And again, I wasn't asked to be at the planning commission public hearing, so I'm assuming there was public comment at the hearing. Was there a summary of that made so that in the event there is, regardless of how this board might rule, if there's a ZBA hearing on it, so we have a nice clean chain of evidence and findings being transmitted?
Yes, comments that were presented at the public hearing, and there were some dissenting comments, were provided in the meeting minutes which were approved by the planning commission last week.
Okay, those were my questions, and that's all they were, is questions essentially. Again, my role is not to advocate for or against zoning ordinance amendments, but merely to make sure that the legal process appears to comply with those criteria that the legislature gives us. So I have nothing further.
Roger, do you want a copy of the letter from the county? It says it at their September 7th
I will take
meeting.
at face value because it's rarely in the, however many years I've been doing this, 29 years, I guess, I can only think of twice when the county has second-guessed planning commission recommendations for Marquette Township. That's pretty much a form letter that we receive, and not in the sense that they're just rubber stamping. They look at it and evaluate it also. What it is more of a reflection on the very careful nature of what our planning commission usually gives them. So it's very rare for them to be critical of a proposed amendment or a proposed new provision. But it is nonetheless a mandatory step that we have to be sure that we're complying with.
Okay. Pardon me. So you want to talk to this issue then, Jason, correct?
Right, so the proposed reuse of the former Fish and Wildlife building features split lot zoning, okay? That general business / development district line followed a section line, which was probably amenable back during the time when the zoning map was originally created. I think the last iteration of our zoning ordinance was done in 1996. Obviously, some things have changed since then. In order for all three of the proposed special land uses to be conducted in Marquette Township in the general business zoning district, or I'm sorry, for all of the three proposed land uses to be viable in our community in the general business zoning district, I believe that that property needs to be entirely within a general business zoning designation. So the recommendation was my recommendation to the property owner to petition the planning commission and now the township board to adjust that line to the southerly right-of-way line of the cut across right-of-way there. And that would make that property entirely within the general business zoning district, and it would clean up, if you will. This is, in my opinion, it's housekeeping. But I know it has been a touchy subject, so I appreciate Roger's questions, making sure that I'm doing my work right and that the planning commission is doing their work right. So really, this is just, in my opinion, again, it's a formality to clean up and make sure that that property is entirely within the general business zoning district, so that the proposed reuse of that property and the added value that they're going to provide is within the general business zoning district.
Okay, and we have a recommended motion. John?
There are 2 points. One, we've satisfied the concerns that our attorney has had. And my recollection from, we've had a lot of paperwork on this. Jason, you can answer this. My feeling was that in the information that we've received, of those members of the Planning Commission who considered this and did hold the hearings, it was unanimously approved. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else? Randy?
I'll move to amend the Marquette Township zoning map in order to convert the zoning designation of parcel ID 52-08-017-018-20 to all general business GB district, and it has to be a roll call.
Support.
Roll call.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, any follow-up, Jason?
No, just that it requires 2/3 vote to amend the zoning ordinance or to amend the zoning.
Okay. Go ahead then, Randy.
Okay, Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Marks.
Yes.
Trustee LaRue.
Yes.
Trustee Everson.
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson.
Yes.
Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
Okay.
One thing, I know that there are some members in the audience from the development team, so I appreciate their patience. The next step will be to get them their Marquette Township marijuana licenses for the 3 land uses, and we will work on those diligently. I will say that since this process has started, the owner, or I'm sorry, Miss Mitchell, who's going to be, not Miss Mitchell. I always want to say Joni Mitchell, it's not Joni Mitchell, but the person that will be leasing the property has submitted plans that will provide a new fence and additional landscaping to soften the effect of that, let's call it what it is, industrial looking building in our business community. So kudos to them, and we look forward to working with them further.
Okay, thanks, Jason.
Thank you, have a good night.
You too. Did you generally want to say anything?
Thank you.
Sure, come on up.
Jim, what do you want to say?
We don't bite.
Don't all be so enthusiastic.
Well, he's the owner of the building. I wanted to give him first grace. My name is Stephen Eckley. I'm a former combat Marine. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for OI Holdings LLC. It's a culmination of companies run by Joni Moore, a U of M Michigan graduate botanist. She focuses on healthcare and cannabis for human beings, and you'll find that through the naming of our convention, Higher Love, which is basically trying to reduce cynicism in this world and reduce pain. So if you have any questions at all, you can reach me at 3090 Wright Street, where my corporate office is located, where you're welcome to get a tour of our existing facilities or this new facility that we'll be hoping to bring online. We work very hard to be corporate citizens. And as I heard you here today, trying to identify budgetary opportunities and things of that nature, that's exactly what we do. So we are interested in giving back to the community, and we would embrace conversations to do so. And thank you for your time and your confidence in us, and we won't let you down. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Anything
Now
else?
it's your turn, Jim.
I'm good.
Okay.
I can't top that one.
Okay.
Thanks to Jim Odavero. His work has been excellent in this relationship, so we're grateful for him and his family.
Good. Okay, we're good? Alrighty. Thank you. All right, consider scheduling work session to discuss the Northwest Marquette Road Network Connectivity Feasibility Study. As you all know, I've been trying to put a meeting together with the engineer manager of the Marquette County Road Commission, Jim Iwaniki, so he can come to the board and have a conversation about the Forestville Road connectivity, whatever you want to call that part of the township road issue. We've had a couple meetings thought of, or a couple dates, and we have had to change those, and now we're changing them again. So the 29th, next Thursday, not this week Thursday, but next week Thursday at 6 o'clock, I'd like to schedule a work session. It doesn't have to be, and we don't want it to be, a special meeting, because there's going to be no decisions made and no motions made. And a special meeting is more conducive to that, where a work session, there are no motions made. So it's just information, it's still a public meeting, anybody can come in and listen. I don't know if Jim will have any pictures or maps or, whatever. We'll try to provide as much information as we can. I will limit, just for your information, I'm going to limit the participation from the audience. you know, so that it's not so free-flowing. I want Jim to talk to us so that we are totally aware of what the project is, what it entails, and get all of our questions answered. And of course, we'll let the public talk before and after. If Jim has time and he wants to address some of their individual questions at the end, I'm fine with that. But during the course of the meeting, we want to make sure that we're focused on what we need to know about this with funding and rights of way and easements and everything else. John?
I agree with what you've scheduled and that. I just want, a note was, I want to make that if the Wayne County Road Commission. Marquette County Road Commission Chair, when he comes, I understand he's had some issues with possible family issues. I just want to make sure that we convey to him that should that come up again, we would reschedule willingly. We know he's willing to come, but family issues are a big thing, and I think we need to communicate that we understand. Thank you.
Yep. Sounds good.
So then I'll make a motion, we schedule a work session for the purpose of information gathering for the proposed Forestville Connector Road. And it's just information gathering, it's no decisions are made.
Okay,
And that's gonna be September 29th at 6 o'clock.
October.
October?
September.
September, yeah, it says
Next
October on
week.
my page, sorry.
I'll support that.
Okay, so
Next Friday.
September
Thursday.
29th at 6 o'clock in this room. And Dan supported it.
If I may, just
Yes.
real quick, since you have support on the motion, the whole basis of this discussion was that network connectivity feasibility study, which actually one of the members of the audience brought up at the last meeting. I think Jim Iwaniki will explain to you why they are not continuing forward with that, and it's all based on money. If you don't have money to do the study, you can't do the study, so then you have to decide how do you spend your money? And if it means you can spend your money towards a more productive end, I believe that's what their objective is at this point. He'll be able to tell you that firsthand next Thursday.
Any other? John, again?
I would ask that our supervisor make sure that the attendee at the meeting from Marquette County Road Commission will have a copy of the communication that I drafted. I don't want any surprises. I want him to know what we were thinking at that time. Could we ask that a copy be given to him?
You probably have it on your computer, right? If you just email it to me, I can forward it. That's the easiest way to get it to me. Can you do that?
I didn't want to send it. I thought it should come from the chair.
I'd have to find it.
Okay,
But-
well,
Okay,
okay.
we'll talk about that, so we can figure out how
Sure.
to get it to
I
him.
can probably help you with that too, Lynn, I think.
Okay. Trying to remember what put it.
I got it too.
Okay, we'll get it to him then.
Thank you.
Yep. What else? Anything else?
We're all set, yeah.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
I'll post that tomorrow.
Okay.
So it will be posted on the door and on our website.
Okay, next up is to consider 2022 tax rate request for the township. And we have that corrected form or that,
Yeah, I'll just speak to this because this is, me and the manager talked and we realized that the recreation millage that was on the form in the packet is no longer going to be levied. So that is actually adjusted in these corrected forms, which I will put into I'll adjust the packet after this meeting. I'll put the new forms in there. And the tax, so this is just for the township, the tax rate request for the DDA The assessor has to get the proper taxable value of the properties in the DDA, and she would do that tomorrow. So it's of my opinion, we can approve this because the millage is what it is, and the taxable value we'll get tomorrow.
Okay,
Ooh.
that's on the next one.
But that's the next
First
agenda.
we're doing the.
We'll do the township one,
tax one, yeah.
which I'll make a motion to approve the 2020 tax rate request for Marquette Township.
Support.
Okay, comments, suggestions? Ernie?
Just for information, if we didn't approve this, this would not be on the tax bills that are presented. in
Well, we would
December.
have until the end of the month, but
I
yes.
know that, but this isn't approved, it won't be on the tax bill, so this is, by statute, we have to do that.
It's a formality, yeah.
Formality.
Otherwise, we'd have to have a special meeting before the
Yes.
end of the month.
And it has to be done so now, so that all of the computer work that needs to be done between now and when the tax bills go out can be taken care of. You will also take action on it later in the year on the General Appropriations Act as you approve the budget for next year.
That's coming in December.
Correct. Yep. Or sooner if you get there quicker, but usually in December.
Okay, we had a motion and support,
Yeah,
correct?
and it is a roll call vote. So Clerk Rattari is yes, Trustee Marks?
Yes.
Trustee LaRue?
Yes.
Trustee Everson?
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson?
Yes.
And Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
The motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
All right, that's the regular levy.
Okay, so the DDA one is next, and the DDA, like I said, our assessor is gonna be in tomorrow, and she will fill in the 2022 taxable value, because the original value we had from the form that was submitted was not correct. So we don't wanna have a not correct value, so I will provide the board a copy with the form once the correct value is inserted. But the millage is a 0.5, and it's levied for one more year, and then it is expired, as the manager said, so.
Now, is that full 0.5 with no millage rollback? Just because it's the first time?
Yes, because the multiplier is 1.0 this year
Okay.
on the Headley.
Anything else? John?
Move to approve the 2022 tax rate request for Marquette Township DDA. Roll call vote.
I'll second it.
Okay, Trustee Marks.
Yes.
Trustee LaRue.
Yes.
Trustee Everson.
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson.
Yes.
Secretary is yes, and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
Can I just say one thing real
Sure.
quick on the prior motion? It does have the renewal of the library millage included in the event it's approved by the voters in November. So if it's not approved, then we don't collect it.
Correct.
Good point.
And that election happens early enough to, if it was not approved, it would not be on the December tax bill. So,
Okay. All right, consider MTA 2022-23 policy platform for discussion on October 4th. I just wanted you to have some time to look at this, see if you have any issues that I need to bring up with them. If you remember, a few years ago, we had 4 or 5 items that we added and changed. So I typed up a separate memo. I just want to make sure you had time to look at it. If you have anything you want to mention now, or if you want to bring it to the next meeting, it's due the first part of November, so I wanted to have, a good month to be able to look at it. Comments?
well, I did look at the elections part of it, and I'm supportive of what they're looking at on the elections.
So what happens here is the Michigan Township Association represents the 1,240 townships in the state. And you don't have to have a membership, but we do. And they will rally on our behalf collectively with the legislature over the course of the next year. So these are the items that they feel they're general enough, that's, you know, nothing specific to any one township or one county or anything like that, but overall, talks about elections, as Randy said, assessment and taxation. They have a mission statement, they talk about the environment and land use, just intergovernmental relations, transportation, township operations. One of the items that Ernie mentioned that's been discussed for many years that we went to MTA was having this level of government being nonpartisan ballot, on the ballot. Because we don't, you know, most townships don't care, and the people don't care what affiliation you are, because it doesn't have any bearing, you know. So, I mean, there have been,
One's downstate.
Yeah.
yeah, it's mostly the
It's all
bigger
downstate.
communities.
You know, the only thing I have would be, how do you address it? You can't, there's a legislature in the House on speed limits. Back in the 90s, we were not, the townships were not part of that. I put together something and presented to MTA, and they did run with it, and actually got through the legislature, and the townships were part of that. Well, not too many years back, that was dropped, so it's just the county and the state police now. So how we ever get back into that platform, I don't know, but I'd like to.
It had to be unanimous too, all three had to agree with
Yes,
whatever, it was
right.
speed limits or the traffic or whatever. So maybe that's why. Maybe they had too many townships that were being unreasonable.
No.
Who knows, but they canceled it.
They look at it through a different set of eyes too.
So anything so far on the platform? We can look, it'll be in the packet again next week and then hopefully pass it or make whatever changes you want or recommendations. Okay, planning commission, we kinda don't have an update.
Yeah, Linda's
Because
gone.
Linda was gone. Recreation committee, anything, did they meet? No?
They met tonight. Unfortunately, Jason's no longer with us this evening to give us an update, but I do know they met tonight.
Okay.
I suspect he gave them the same update he just gave you regarding his
Sure.
presentation to the full MNRTF board.
Imagine that.
You need to get your email fixed. Okay, events, yeah. That would be
Events,
Christmas.
yes, November 22nd, Christmas tree lighting in Santa, just to give you, you know. I know you get so excited waiting, but
What the tree looks like this year remains to be determined. You may recall, we've had some discussions about that. I think some issues with the tree being too big, having the proper equipment to harvest it, transport it, stand it back up, decorate it, all those things, as well as competing with snow storage in the winter. As the parking lot is plowed, I think some of those issues will need to be discussed by the committee.
I noticed there's still a stump in there from last year, so they must have just cut it off instead of even trying to take it out.
Yeah, there's a bit of an issue with that pipe they use as the tree stand as well. I think it's broke.
I was gonna say it's cracked.
So that creates a safety issue that we really need to pay attention to.
I was looking at it the other day, and said, you know what you could do is just put a steel one up, you know, just steel some branches off.
Steel tree, kinda like at the golf course,
Look better.
with the green branches kinda stuck up in the air.
You talking about an aluminum one?
I think he meant steel.
Pete, have they ever approached any of the growers around to, I mean, I'm just talking a 25-foot tree,
I think John has.
to have their name associated with it for advertising, that they donated this, and we don't have to go to a 50-foot tree. You know, just something with a usable stump and everything on it, so.
I've actually talked to Meisters about it. I think the biggest issue we have is finding a big enough tree spade for a tree that's worth lighting in the first few years once it's replanted. I don't know that we've spent a ton of time looking into that, but it's a matter of just calling around all the contractors to see what they have as far as a tree spade.
You don't have to have a real big one. I mean, Chocolate got a small one, I think it's maybe about 6, 7 feet.
Oh, that one's probably closer to 20 feet tall now.
No, a small one in front, but right up
Yeah.
from the sign.
It's more than 7 now.
I told him, I said, a couple of years ago, I said, just put a little sign, light it up, put a little sign, come grow with us, you know. Get some advertising, get some, you know, a little humor in there.
Well, and where to put it has been discussed over and over. You know, we talked about putting it here in the parking lot, or, you know, on our property, but parking is an issue when you get that many people. The mall is kinda nice, because it's by the road, and it lights up, and the sign is there, and, but it's an issue where it
Might wanna move
is.
it down farther, because you don't have the Applebee's, you don't have the road going out anymore.
Well, that's not our property either, so we have to kinda defer to what other people want us, will let us do.
They really wanna put it there, Clay.
They do, huh? Ernie?
Why don't we let the event committee come back with their recommendations and suggestions on that?
Yeah, I'd rather know about it before it happens. I know we told them, we gave them their orders and said, go ahead and do it, but it'd be nice to kinda know what to expect before it happens.
I even thought about putting a smaller one on top of the mall, on top of the
Yeah, I heard that.
building itself, you know. I don't know.
I'm not willing to take on the liability of potentially punching holes into a private business's roof.
No, I'll do that.
Okay, wait till you get off the board. Okay.
Maybe the committee's not associated with the township.
Yes. So we're good with the policy platform, we'll look at that again. That's right, we went through the events. Okay, any public comment? Anything anybody wants to say A or nay on? Sure, you're thinking. Going. Okay, announcements? Anybody have anything to share? Randy?
Okay, so announcements from elections we proofed the ballot for November because there was a big fight downstate with what was going on the ballot as far as state proposals. That's been settled. So finally got approved. I approved that last week. So we should be getting our ballots sometime next week, and then hopefully that week after, the first week in October, we'll get them started to get sent out. And there's a few proposals on there. One is in regards to elections, so make sure you review that. And it could change elections significantly if it's approved. So they talk about early voting for 9 days. Just very different things about the voting aspects that, unless it's approved, we don't deal with it until it's approved, but it's just kind of pay attention to all the state proposals that are on there, that will be on there. And, so that's about it. So look for your absentee ballot. I'm gonna try to get them out as much as I can that first couple weeks in October, so. The election this year is the latest it can possibly be. It is, let me get one of that date here. When's got it?
November 8th.
Okay, so the township office will be open from 7:30 to 3:30 on November 5th. That's a Saturday, to take in or give out absentee ballots or to register to vote. The election is on November 8th. Like I said, it's the latest it can possibly be in a calendar, so. And the polls are open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. that evening. And that's it.
Okay. Anything else from anybody? All right, managers report?
I think we've touched on every item in this particular report already through the course of this meeting. The parking lot crack sealing has occurred at all 3 of our facilities, so Public Works, the Fire Department, and Township Hall. I think Jet Black did a great job. It looks good out there. Doing the same preventive maintenance that we've been doing on our road network, just with general fund money, not road millage money, just to be clear on that. The DDA we already talked about, and then the Lions Field tri-party agreement. There, you heard from the attorney earlier that we may be reviewing parts of this with one or more of the parties to that agreement. I don't know that it went exactly the way they all had hoped this year, so I guess we'll see what happens. It could jeopardize some of the projects that were being proposed, but I guess we'll wait and see. One of the primary players in that we're trying to meet with this week yet, so. The only other thing I wanted to mention to you is the budget is coming along pretty good, and I think we should have a draft budget for you to at least look at prior to the first meeting in October. So October 4th, we should plan on starting to schedule budget work sessions. There's a couple of things that we don't have yet. They're the same things that we're waiting on every year. We won't know the healthcare premium increase probably until late in November. We're again assuming the same thing we did last year, 10% increase, not knowing for sure what it'll be. Hopefully that will be conservative, but we won't know until just before you have to approve the budget, really. The other thing that we do not know is the hourly rate for the sheriff's contract. I requested that today. We will hopefully get that soon. During the work sessions, we'll be discussing some minor tweaks to that agreement too, just to clean it up a little bit. But along those lines, we have determined that we will have adequate funding to order the next vehicle for them. And I think we need to, because what the dealer's telling us is we won't get a 2023 model if we ordered it this year, or even the one day that you can order fleet vehicles next year. It will be a 2024 model. That's how far out things are now.
Gas or electric?
Oh,
No comment.
okay.
Any questions for the manager?
On the vehicle, there's been some discussion to do something different with that one. Are we moving forward with that discussion at all?
I don't think we intend to order anything but a full-size SUV this time. That was the intent last time, and it didn't happen. That was the year I took over for Randy. We don't know the details on how come it didn't happen that year. I think some people have ideas, but I can't verify one way or the other, at least not tonight. And then the only other question is light or dark in color, and white or black are really the options, so that's what you have to decide.
We get the SRV and then we'll worry about the color, whatever we get with that too. So.
Well, we have to order the color when we order the vehicle.
Yeah.
So,
I'd say dark, because the dark is the easier for, the police officer told us if you have a darker vehicle, it's easier for them to do their job because you're not sticking out as the white thing coming at you.
it's also safer in the winter.
It is, yeah. So I'd recommend dark.
I agree with that.
Dark, John, dark.
Perfectly fine with that. I've made a preliminary contact with the local dealer that we were advised to talk to. He knows that it's a very limited window to place an order, so the sheriff's department doesn't object to us ordering it as long as it meets their spec.
Okay. Any other questions for John? Okay, thank you.
I will bring you the, basically, the summary of our savings account for the police vehicle. We basically did it just like a checkbook register, going back 2 purchases, just to show you how much we have been setting aside that we haven't spent. So pretty sure we have adequate funds, and we're still planning on setting aside $15,000 every year for the next one, so.
Okay,
Amen.
Randy, want to review the motions?
Okay, the first motion was approve the consent agenda as presented, that was approved. The second motion was to approve the regular agenda as presented, that was approved. Third motion was to approve the zoning map amendment featuring the split lot zoning, that was approved by roll call vote. This fourth motion was to schedule a work session for Thursday, the 29th of September at 6 PM in regards to the Northwest Marquette Road connectivity feasibility study, and that was approved. Fifth motion was to approve the 2022 tax rate request for the township. That was approved by roll call vote. The sixth motion was to approve the township DDA tax rate request, and that was approved by roll call vote. We'll get the correct assessing to you, and I'll get it in the packet when it's done. And that was approved, and that was it.
So all we have for right now, or I do, is the MTA platform for the next agenda.
And
Some of the things that John's gonna.
yeah, and I slid in their budget work session schedule, so we'll
Okay.
start to look at that. I told him I'd like to wrap this up by November. And then we have November and December to chew on anything that we need if it needs to be changed.
If we do a good job, it's achievable.
It's easier now than it has been in past years.
Well, and also till you get to later half of November, you get holidays and such, and it's rough to meet in there, and deer hunting.
I will be gone for about a week, mid-November.
No.
Oh, yeah.
You can take your laptop with you.
You can zoom
Do they
in
have
from deer
electricity
camp.
where you're going though?
No.
I didn't think so.
Your Medicare fixed.
His email doesn't work, though.
That's right, so it doesn't matter.
You don't look at them anyway.
I'm here pretty much every day if you wanna
Right.
stop in.
His deer always got rope burns on, so I don't know what that is all about.
Okay, any other board member comment? Ernie?
I have one on the latest township focus from the MTA. There was an article in there that the Nagani Township Hall got installed a solar energy system and that. And I've talked about this in the past and it never really went anywhere. And I think it's something that we need to at least start discussing. And we may discuss it during budget sessions and that. And get some recommendations and suggestions as we move forward in that. I think it's beneficial for us to have our thought on it as we look forward to the cost for everything.
I'm surprised what they could save on it.
I know, I know.
10 to 15-year return. That's still kind of steep, but,
If you get grant funding or not.
yeah.
But I think we need to start the process of researching it and find out what's all involved, what we can or can't do in that, and where the funds may or may not come from in that, how we're gonna handle it in that, so. Unless we do that, we're just gonna sit here and talk and not have any concrete knowledge about it in that. We need to get that knowledge ahead of us in that too, so.
I think at a minimum, there's tax incentives and there's also potential grant opportunities. And when we get to it, I'll give you some details about how they finance their project too.
It's fine, it's just starting the process, that's all I'm asking that too,
The
so.
county will help.
We're here to help.
Okay, what other comments from the board? Dan?
Just a reminder of the open house on the 26th for our fire department. I encourage everybody to attend,
September
What time is that?
26th.
5 to 7.
That's next Monday.
8, isn't it?
Like 5 to 8 or something.
5 to 8.
Yeah.
Monday night.
5 to 8.
Next Monday, Friday. Next Monday, 5 to 8.
You don't park in front.
No, don't park in front.
Up by the big doors.
Park here and walk over. What else? Go for it.
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 7:50.
Just had to do it, eh, John?
Yeah.
Just had to do it.